Hello, I'm Jerry Horner, and welcome to the Bella Vista gardening program. And today, joining me from the Botanical Garden of the Ozarks is Charlotte Taylor. She's the executive director, and Kitty Sanders, who's the volunteer, and she's the butterfly house mentor. So she's involved mainly in the butterfly house. And we'll be talking about this wonderful botanical garden today, and how it started and all about it. So it's just a wonderful addition to the area. We just love it. And also we'll be talking about what to do in your garden in January. There's a few things you have to take care of, but not very much because it's winter, so we're not doing very much. But the main thing about the garden is when I moved here like 22 years ago, I had there was a presentation in Bella Vista about the garden and the grand plans and all the area. It was just amazing. So I've kind of, seen the progressions for 22 years. It's just been amazing. It takes a long time to develop a botanical garden. And Charlotte, you've been here how long now?
I've been with the garden just a year and a half.
Oh, a year and a half, okay.
You've known about the garden a lot longer than I have.
But I don't know as much about the garden.
But yes, about 25 years ago, a group got together and began to formulate the thoughts and plans and dreams for a garden. So you got there right at the beginning.
So how many acres do they actually have?
We sit presently on 42 acres
42.
On Lake Fayetteville. We are only cultivated about 5.5 to 6 acres, so we have a lot of future plans as well.
So that's a large area.
Right.
So there's a lot of future plans, I'm sure. But it all takes money, and that's where you get your money from donations and members and so forth. So, but the beginnings, they had just a small group that started this, and then Carl Totemeyer got involved somehow.
Right. Well, initially there was a group of people that got together, had the dream, felt like Northwest Arkansas needed a botanical garden, which was pretty amazing because you think about Northwest Arkansas 25 years ago, and it was a very different place, very small. Lake Fayetteville was very rural. There weren't a lot of houses or businesses nearby. And so to have this group that thought we need to have something in Northwest Arkansas. So they got together, got incorporated. We were incorporated in '94 and began to do those initial things to get the garden started. There was a board of directors. They began to have fundraisers long before there was ever a garden there. And for many years there was a sign that said Future Home of Botanical Garden. And nothing was there for a long time, but there were a lot of behind the scenes work being done. Then Carl Totemeyer and other folks got involved, and they sort of took the garden to the next stage.
Right. Now Carl was a professor at the University of Arkansas.
No, Carl was actually with the New York City Botanical Garden.
Oh, he was retired from
He retired, and he and his wife Jean moved to Northwest Arkansas, picked it out of all those places, and part of the reason was because they thought there could be a botanical garden.
Oh, that's great.
And so they moved to town. He got involved with the farmers market and many other things, and really got involved and got the botanical garden thinking about what we needed to do to move forward to actually open a garden. So the first group...
Well, I know that I had gone to some seminars and programs that he gave.
Oh,
and
he's
I don't know why I connected him with the university, but he put on some wonderful programs.
He's fabulous.
He was wonderful.
Yes.
And he passed away, what, 2004?
I don't know what
maybe?
year he passed away, but his wife Jean is still living and involved with the garden.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah, so they're the ones who really helped think about the vision of what Carl used to say, we have to build something that people will come to.
Right.
So he really was the one to help the group then think about the garden, think about what we could open and what could we actually do. And they began to raise money too.
Oh, I know there was fundraisers, at the very beginning before the first shovel was, turned.
Right.
So.
Matter of fact, this year we're getting ready to have our 22nd greening of the garden.
Oh,
but the garden's only been open for 9 years, so you can see that these greenings and opportunities to raise money have been going on a long time.
Now, at this point, then, Gerald Klingeman's involved from the university.
Gerald got involved. Gerald is the former faculty member from the university, former professor of horticulture, and he got involved with the garden first as a volunteer, then he was a volunteer director, and then he came on staff when he retired from the university. He came on staff and he manages the operations, everything from the gardens to our buildings to...
Well, he's got to be fun to work with because he's really a fun person. He's a fun gardener.
He is, definitely.
And so the gardens that you have now, that have been developed over the past 9 years.
Correct.
So those are, I think we have a little schematic of those to show that the gardens that have been completed. And if we could just mention a few things about each
Certainly.
one. So
And
you
Kitty,
start
jump
at the
in
beginning.
whenever you like. When you first come into, after you leave the Totemeyer Hall,
That's not the right. That's not the right.
after you come into the
There it
Totemeyer
is.
Hall, you go to the
Okay.
Founders Garden, which honors those people that started the garden as well as those who've made contributions and
Right.
bought bricks. Then we've got the Japanese Garden, which is beautiful and very very reminiscent of a Japanese, very simple lines, not a lot of color, but very beautiful.
So as you stroll around this big circle, you just
Correct.
see every garden.
And then you go to the vegetable garden, which is becoming more and more popular
Oh,
as
yeah.
community gardens are becoming popular. And we have some gardeners that specialize in vegetable gardens, and there are things growing in there right now,
Right.
even. And of course, then the children's garden is a huge feature.
Oh, that's a wonderful,
We have a
wonderful
lot of
feature.
people that come to the garden because their children want to run around and play in a safe, wonderful environment.
Well, the adults enjoy it too.
Well, they do, most
really
definitely.
do.
To climb up into the eagle's nest, it's a bit challenging for some of us adults,
Right.
but it is a fun, creative place for kids to play. But then the whole area back there by the children's garden, we also have the education cottage and gardens where we have parties and educational opportunities. Beautiful gardens are back there, and a lot of activity goes on back at the education cottage. Then we have, of course, the beautiful butterfly house and the butterfly gardens. And I'm going to let Kitty share a little bit about that because she has been involved really. Kitty does a lot, not just butterfly stuff, but she primarily helps to keep the butterfly house operating, and it's a wonderful attraction for us.
That's only been open, this will be our 6th year. And we see as our mission trying to help people in the area understand the needs of native butterflies and showcase the kinds of plants that will
The host
attract
plants,
them.
they have to have their host
The
plants.
host plants and the nectar plants. And if you are gardening for butterflies, then you're also helping other pollinators.
Right.
And of course, we hear in the news all the time how important that is.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a lot of education programs around the butterfly house and a lot of children's programs.
Right.
And a lot of butterfly nannies who love to be there in all the events and share what's going on in there.
That's wonderful. Because the monarch program to save the monarchs has just been tremendous around the country.
Right, and we're partnering with the city of Fayetteville.
Right,
to-
and the garden club, Bella Vista Garden Club's been very active with the monarch
Oh, good.
project, trying to get milkweed planted and so forth. Okay, so then the other after that.
Well, then we go to the Four Seasons Garden, which has things going on all during the year. The Shade Garden is a beautiful area that will even be more spectacular this year. It is called the Shade Garden, and they're all shade plants in there. But we're going to have this spring, we're going to have a beautiful tulip display in that garden this year. We've gotten a wonderful gift to be able to do that. So.
Well, most of these gardens are set up so that people can see what they can do at their location, not
yes.
just, a pretty garden.
And thank you for mentioning that because
Right.
that's what Carl Totemeyer's vision was, that these be backyard gardens. It's something that anybody could do in their
Right.
backyard, not just horticulturalists.
Right.
So each of these gardens is I wish I could remember the square feet, but it's what a typical backyard would be. And so, yes, anybody
Just give
could
them
do these
ideas
things.
what they can do and
Correct.
take home to do. So
Correct.
that's great.
Definitely. So after the Shade Garden is the Sensory Garden, which was given originally by the Master Gardens of Washington County, I believe, and they still do
They're very
maintain
supportive.
that. Very supportive.
Yeah.
And so that garden is just a beautiful place. Again, a very educational opportunity.
It's great for children. We take them in
Yes.
there and talk about the senses, and it's a good place
Right.
to support what they're doing in their science classes.
Right. Oh, that's great. It's so educational, and you get educated without knowing it. So it's great. And then,
The Natives Garden, we might have been a little bit out of sync there, but the Natives Garden, of course, is very important to, as Kitty was talking about the butterflies, but native gardening is becoming so very popular, and I know you all are involved with that.
We are really pushing for native plants to be planted.
And our lead gardener is trying to show people how you can have native plants,
Right.
keep them tame. You know, they don't have to be what you see along the roadside and out
Right.
of control. And
Yeah.
that's big function of that
Right,
garden.
because native plants, it's a little tricky to work with them, but you know, I think you can incorporate, you don't have to have all native plants in your garden, but you can incorporate quite a few and make them work with other plants you don't want to give up, like your hostas and your,
Right.
you know, your other plants.
One of the best features of this garden is an old-fashioned porch swing in there. So you can feel like you're sitting on a
On
farm in Grandma's porch and
porch,
enjoying the
that's
beautiful
right.
native plants and
Right.
swinging and just relaxing. And that's where
Right.
I go out there when I need a moment
Little-
of peace and quiet.
That's a
Don't
little
tell
rest-
anybody.
little respite out there.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
And then,
The Ozarks Stream and Rock Garden is just a beautiful area that shows a stream, and we have koi fish in there, and it's just another beautiful area
Right.
that shows what native would be. And the last garden sort of goes around the perimeter. It's the Perennial Garden, and it kind
Right.
of goes along the
Around
south side.
on the left side
And so
there.
it's a longer garden. It's beautiful.
And then your great lawn in the middle, I know you use that for a lot of weddings.
A lot of weddings and events.
And events.
We have this year, we'll probably have at least in 2016, the year that just ended, we will have had about 60 plus weddings.
Oh,
now that's not to
wow.
count all the other events that we have.
Right.
That's just weddings. And so the majority of the big weddings do go on on the Great Lawn. But we also have weddings in the sensory garden, in the shade garden, in the children's garden. I mean, people get married, have small weddings everywhere. And so
that's wonderful.
it's just a beautiful lawn to have those gorgeous special occasions. And then we, of course, have our special events. A lot of them out there are there on the garden.
Okay. Well, we do have some pictures of the gardens, and these were taken by Steve Little, our director. And they're not. I don't think he took them last year, but they maybe the year before. I don't know. But the gardens change every time you go to the garden. It's going to be different. So
That's the goal.
that's the goal of gardens, is that it changes. And this is the Totemeyer building.
Totemeyer Event Hall, yes. And this
Event
is where we
hall.
actually, we can have corporate meetings, garden club meetings. We host a lot of garden clubs.
The garden club's been there for
We
field
have
trips.
a lot of different
several
events that go
times.
on in the garden. And
Right.
weddings do actually happen inside. We also have memorial services because people
Oh,
are
I
looking for
see.
places to have a service that is uplifting and positive. And so we do have more and more memorial
That's
services.
great. Now, you have a lot of perennials along with your annuals, I noticed, too. So,
And that is another goal of our lead gardener, to have more beautiful perennials. We want to always have that splash of color but the annuals give, but we want to have a lot of perennials so that we're not planting every
now
year.
these are the cone flowers, and then is that salvia, or is that a cone with the cone flowers? Is that?
I can't tell. It might be.
Okay.
Salvia.
But you can incorporate, cone flowers are so.
And we
so
have many
pretty.
different varieties of cone
Yeah, it used to be
flowers.
just the pink ones and all. So then I
Yeah,
think
they-
this is a Missouri primrose, isn't it?
I think it's a California poppy.
Oh, California poppy. Okay.
Yeah, Kitty will
I
be
don't
our
know all,
gardener.
I don't know all the plants you have at the garden. And then, of course, the violas. And they're really popular in the winter time.
I was going to say,
That's a
they were
winter-
planted before the holidays, and they're starting to really,
And they're beautiful all winter.
yes.
And your grasses are all beautiful in the winter, too. So you have some beautiful grasses. And they can go right with the roses.
We are during some years given trials to be able to see
Oh.
for some of the seed companies what will work in this zone. And so every year it's very different. And sometimes we have things that just really, was it 2 years ago we had that was it dragon's breath? Something.
Celosia.
Oh my goodness. We had people calling us from all over the
what was
country
that?
finding out what it was. And it was a trial that we were just seeing would work in our
Well,
zone.
see, that's what, when you go to the garden and you can see how a plant grows and, you know, how it would fit into your garden. Seeing it at the nursery in a little pot doesn't really tell you anything.
Right.
So
Or what
this
it'll
is-
look like a couple of years later.
Right.
Unfortunately,
this
I
is one of
plant
those,
things and I don't realize what it'll be a couple of years later.
Right. I think this is that soft holly or something, I think. Not sure. There's your poppies. I love poppies.
I do too.
They're so, even the seed pods are pretty after they stop blooming. So, but everywhere you look, there's just, you know, plants galore.
My background is not in horticulture, so I've had so much fun learning about, I've always been a gardener, but
Right.
learning more. And one of the things that has amazed me is Lissa, our lead gardener, and the other gardeners do a wonderful job of layering the plants so that you always see something new and different coming up, and it's
Right.
timed perfectly. The colors, the scheme, it's
And
planned out very, it's not like in my garden where I put things wherever I
Right.
want to because I like them, but it's very much planned, so what it
Right.
will look like in the spring, summer, and fall, and I'm
And
amazed.
that's a challenge.
It is a
That's true
challenge.
for most gardeners.
They do a wonderful job.
I know this is a Kusa dogwood. That's a beautiful dogwood that blooms a little later than
It
the
does,
normal
yes.
dogwoods, and it's beautiful. And it can take a little more sun, I think, than some
I
of the
believe
other
so.
dog. Mine's in the shade, doesn't bloom as well. But between the annuals and the perennials and the mix, it's always just something beautiful. Now this is the Japanese garden.
That's the
right?
Ozarks stream.
Oh, that's the Ozark stream.
With the-
Actually, that's the Rockin' Garden
Oh, that's the
Street.
Rockin'
Yeah.
Garden.
That's and it starts up at the entrance and works its way down to the south part of the property. And it's
Okay.
beautiful.
Oh, that's really pretty. And then there's, just all kinds of plants around that will
Correct.
work with streams. So then we have the Japanese garden. And that's such a restful area.
Oh, it's wonderful. And we do have a number of weddings there, though I have to admit, one time a little bridal party went in there and they put a lot of colorful things in there, and we thought that was kind of funny because usually Japanese gardens are
very
very
serene,
quiet and very
yeah.
serene. And they put all these bows and everything, but they said, but whatever they wanted, it was perfect for them. One of the things I'll mention is we have 4 wonderful gardeners, but we also have a lot of volunteer gardeners.
Oh,
we couldn't do it we couldn't run the garden without our volunteers.
Absolutely.
They are so important. They're in our office, they're at our events, they're at our educational programs, they're working in the butterfly house, but they're also, some of them are out in the garden actually working day to day.
Weeding and so forth.
Weeding,
Yeah,
mulching, and doing whatever it is that needs to be done. We have volunteers that clean those streams because those need to be cleaned
And
out.
waders.
And they climb in their waders and clean
wow.
it out. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, there's
Pretty
another
amazing.
poppy there. And then we have the vegetable garden. That's really a beautiful vegetable garden. I
It
love
is.
that.
It's wonderful.
And it's amazing how they grow. Your herbs are usually twice the size of my herbs, so you have some wonderful soil there. So
They worked hard to make
they
that.
do. And then you have the chicken coop
We do
behind it.
have the Tyson chicken coop, yes, and that is a great attraction to not just children but everybody.
Right, and those heritage chickens are just so beautiful.
They
They
are.
really are. They're fun to watch. And I think that's a cedar.
Looks like-
Yeah, and the children's garden. And that is such a fun place. I just love the children's garden.
You mentioned Gerald Klingman, that tree, Eagle's Nest. He built that.
He built
he
that
loves
himself?
to do the things for the children.
Oh, yeah, he does. He really does. He's been wonderful with the master gardeners, too. He's been very supportive. But there's just so many little nooks and crannies that the children can go through.
The whole garden is certainly children friendly, but this area is for sure creative and fun, and we want them to explore and learn what it's like to be in nature, not attached to their electronic devices,
Right.
just having a good time.
Disconnected from
or
that.
bringing a book. We have a little
Yeah.
library outside the garden, and we'd love when we see adults and children in reading and thinking and running around just having a good time.
Other than using their phone, yeah.
We did have a lot of Pokemon Go visitors.
Oh, did you?
When that hit last fall, summer,
summer.
whenever that hit, we were inundated, and we welcomed them certainly. But it was just funny seeing people not looking at the garden, but just walking around looking at their telephones.
Yeah, that's
So I'd
not
say,
good.
come in, join the garden, and then go have a good time
Right.
doing whatever. That's really slowed down,
And
though.
then I know this is the horsetail that's in the children's garden. And again, that can be a little invasive if you put it in your garden, but if you put it in a location where it won't take over the whole garden,
Well,
it's
and you also
good.
have gardeners working on it every day, too,
Right,
remember? It's not.
right. And it's,
But it is
it's-
beautiful.
It's great for design too. We use it a lot in our design elements. So, and then this was the
Four Seasons.
Four Seasons garden, and that big egg shape.
Well, we call it the egg, yes.
know,
it's
it's just-
magical.
it
During
really
some of
is.
our festivals, we have Firefly Fling Festival in the summer, and it's decorated all up, and it's just
Yeah.
beautiful. During our 12 Gardens of Winter last month, it was decorated as well, and it's just a really creative. Again, we have weddings that happen in that
Right.
beautiful spot.
It's amazing. I think that was probably, this one's probably, is that near the children's garden?
It's kind of in between.
In
the
between,
children's, yes.
just a big trowel sticking
Trowel,
in the
yes.
ground. So it's just fun things. And like I said, a lot of perennials and annuals mixed. And the coleus have really, really been popular lately now that they have sun coleus instead of just shade. And I think that's an artemisia. And then the butterflies. I love the butterflies. And then you have, how many different milkweeds do you have? Do you know?
Probably 4 right now.
Four different varieties? Okay, there's a lot of different varieties of milkweed. But
We'll be putting more in this next year to try and showcase what the natives are that you can use in your
right, and
own
some are
garden.
harder to grow than others.
Right.
They really are. Sometimes it's a challenge to get the milkweed.
What was the butterfly that was seen? We got a picture of it this year that was so unusual.
The tiger, I believe you guys had it up here too, with the male and female in the same body.
No, I don't think I know about that one. I don't know
So,
enough
like
about
one
butterflies.
side, when you took the picture, one side was female and the other side was the
Oh.
It
male.
was fascinating. People didn't believe that we actually had one. They thought it
my
was
goodness.
photoshopped, but it was really in the
Yeah.
garden. Not even in the butterfly house, but in the garden.
In the garden. Okay, well, there's so many different plants that you have to learn about. Now this garden is, what is that?
That's part of the sensory garden.
That's still the sensory
yes.
garden.
And that's another art feature. It's a butterfly, actually. This picture doesn't show it so well,
Right.
but we've got the wings that are every season just beautifully, colorfully
Yeah.
done. And the
From a
butterflies.
distance, it just looks like a
Right.
big butterfly. That's
Right,
right.
it's
I
really
remember
neat.
that.
Really
So,
neat.
but you know, to see the garden, you know, you almost have to go every week or every 2 weeks because it changes so much. But,
Most definitely.
your future plans now. I know you've got so many more acres, but is there anything coming up in your future plans?
Well, we
on the
are
horizon?
right now. We're in the middle of a strategic plan, thinking about our future, what we want to be for the whole region of Northwest Arkansas, and really for the state and larger region. And so we're going through that process to help us to make that decision. But that will help us figure out what we want to do in the gardens across the creek. We say across the creek, it's Hilton Creek, south. We're developed north of the creek, and we're looking at development south of the creek. We have another 30 plus acres
I
over
know,
there.
That was so much land back there to utilize.
Right,
and it's
right.
just,
And so we know, we've had focus groups talking to people in Benton County, Washington County, our members, non-members, talking about what they want next in a garden. And so we don't know what those are yet, but we have some thoughts.
and how
that
you
we
can
think-
fund them.
Well,
That's
that'll be
the
a
main
big thing. That's
the
a huge
main
thing for us. We have several ways we keep our funding going. Certainly admissions, memberships. Memberships are really crucial to us. We have corporate donors, individual donors, and then we're a venue that rents.
Right.
So that's money that comes in. And then we have our own special events. So all those things come together
Right.
to help us figure out what we'll be able to do across the creek.
Now you have a website that probably lists a lot of this information that you
Most
can find.
definitely.
So I'm sure we have the website on the screen here that we can show. And then for your plans for the coming year, what have you got planned for the coming year?
We
You have so many
We
activities.
have
You
so
probably
many
can't
activities.
talk
As a
about
matter of
all
fact,
of them.
yes, go to our website. But we do have some key ones that are coming up that I thought might be of interest. Our obviously, the winter's a little bit quiet time, but we do have a lot going on as we prepare. The Orchid Show is coming up March 3rd, 4th,
Okay,
and 5th. And that
okay.
last year was a huge success. We had beautiful weather. We hope to have it again because the Orchid Show is amazing. We work with the Orchid Society of Northwest Arkansas to put that on. Then the plant sale, April 28th is for members, so I encourage everybody to join. Then you get to come
Right.
early and get a
the
discount.
good stuff.
And March 29th is open to the public. So
Okay,
that's
now
a,
that's the plants that you actually pull out of your garden.
we actually grow them.
Or you
our gardeners-
propagate.
Or propagate. And then we do have some outside vendors that are organic and local gardeners that
No, you usually have the University of Arkansas Horticulture
they
Club.
come, yes, they have
and
wonderful
they
plants. I've
have
been buying their
wonder-
plants for years.
I have too. For 22 years I've been buying their plants. They're
Yes,
wonderful.
They do.
And,
So it's a wonderful place to get really fabulous plants. And our gardeners, and I think all the vendors that we have, grow plants that are specific to our area
Right.
that are going to be good in this area. So you're
Well,
gonna
if they're
get
pulled from the garden, you know they're going to grow here and they're going
Right.
to thrive. So that's the garden club plant sales the same way. You know, instead of going to a nursery, you don't know if this is going to make it or not.
Exactly. And you've
But-
got professionals that are there to help you answer any questions.
And I think one of the things that Gerald Klingeman, I remember at his seminars, he says if you haven't killed a plant at least 3 times, you haven't tried. So, I mean, I've tried on several plants.
Me too. Me
That was
too.
my favorite saying of his. So,
Our first big event that we have, our first big fundraising event, is Greening of the Garden. As I mentioned, this will be our 22nd annual. It's going to be on May 9th. Keep your fingers crossed for wonderful weather because we've had snow, heat, sun, rain, everything possible. But it's a wonderful first event. It's a kicking off of the season. Everybody come have a great time, and really it's our major fundraiser for the garden.
that's wonderful.
But then we have lots of educational programs that are ongoing. Our education programs really go on all year long. We have adult programs, we have kids activities and classes and field trips and hikes and everything. So
Because I think you have butterfly houses where you have the butterflies coming out of the chrysalis to see,
Oh,
and,
yes.
and the kids just love to see that. That's just a great opportunity to see that butterfly emerging.
It's
so.
good for us adults too.
Oh,
it is
yeah.
good, yes. Actually, they're more like kids. When I first came to the garden and they were the butterfly nannies, they were like kids. They were so
Yeah.
excited. So it gets everybody excited
Yeah,
about what's
that's
going
great.
on.
And then you also have chefs in the garden, I know.
Chefs in the Garden is another one of our really popular events. It's in September. It's kind of toward the end of the season, and it is a wonderful opportunity to try wonderful chefs from around the whole region, have select beverages and music, and walk around the garden. And so even in September, the garden is beautiful, but the gardeners say that October is their favorite month.
Right.
It is beautiful in October. This year it went into November too, I hate to admit.
I
but
think this past October you had the Master Gardener
Appreciation Day, the State
Day,
Appreciation
the
Day.
whole state.
And we had over 500 people there that day, and it was wonderful. And then we had a fall finale open just to the community. The next night we had, I believe it was 800 people
Oh,
come
my.
for that.
Well, the more people you get to look at this garden, the better. And you know, it just lifts your spirits when you see it. It's just a wonderful garden.
Well, and we want everybody to know that we have this right here in Northwest Arkansas. You don't have to go to St. Louis. You don't have to go to Kansas City.
Right.
You don't have to go anywhere else. We've got a beautiful garden. You can join with us, then you can go to those other facilities.
Right, and then-
but it's a wonderful thing right here in our metro
It
area.
is. It's wonderful. Such a great addition. So
It
I
is,
thank you so
definitely.
much for doing that. Well, there's some things we need to do in our garden in January. We don't have a lot, but the main thing is in the winter when we have any snow and ice, you might be tempted to go out and get the ice off the plants that are drooping. But the best thing to do is if it's ice, just leave it on the plant, let it melt. If you try to take it off, you're going to break the limbs. So with the ice, just leave it alone. If we have a lot of snow, you may want to take a broom out and get some of the snow off some of the limbs that are bending. But that's the main thing in the winter. And if you've seen any damage on your plants because of the cold weather, just leave it till the spring. And in the spring, then you can deal with trimming and cleaning up any damage. So. And you have to just pay attention to your moisture. We've been so dry. I think we're 14 to 18
Yes.
inches below normal for the year, so it's just been so dry. If you've planted things in the spring or fall, in the summer or fall, be sure to monitor the water. Get your hose out, unfortunately, and get those things watered. So it's been really dry. Now what is it that the garden, Botanical Garden does in January specifically? Anything?
Well, you were talking about the herbs growing so well there.
Uh-huh.
They really do things to prepare soil. And
Okay.
especially in the vegetable garden, they will add compost and manure to the beds, and then they'll cover those beds often with cardboard to keep the weeds down.
That
but then
really
that
does
also
help, yeah.
helps the soil become improved.
Mm-hmm.
They also add 6 to 12 inch layer of straw in the vegetable
garden.
gardens. Now, in other gardens, you can do the same process, but you might use mulch, different kinds of mulch in those
Right.
areas. Another thing that's really important, those you mentioned the violas. The winter annuals need attention, and a lot of them really need fertilizer even though it's winter.
Right.
So if you're getting a mild spell, it's a good time to deadhead and to go ahead and fertilize those.
Yeah, like your,
and then they'll take off really well in the spring
your
again.
pansies. And now, I noticed we did have a picture of the snapdragons, and they're basically now a winter annual.
If you have a not too awful winter.
Yeah,
right.
It's pretty mild winter.
And then another thing, a lot of people think well, there's no planting to be done, but this time of year is a good time to do shrubs and trees because they're dormant, and it allows them to settle in and get a root system developed before they have
to put all the
summer.
leaves out. Right.
So those are some
that's
things.
great. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming today and sharing all your information on the Botanical Garden. It's such an addition to this area. I know Crystal Bridges has brought so many things in, but the Botanical Garden is one of the main things that we just love as gardeners. So, and while you're trying to find information on gardening for the winter, you can go to the Master Gardener website. They have a website. It's bentoncountygardening.org, and there's all kinds of information on that site with gardening information. And the Bella Vista Garden Club January meeting will be held at United Lutheran Church on Wednesday, the 25th of January, and our program is growing Arkansas native plants, so we're emphasizing native plants, and that's going to be put on by Stacy Elkins of Birdsong Gardens. Also, our horticulture topic is Northwest Arkansas Experienced Gardeners Tips, so you can get some tips from some experienced gardeners at the meeting. And guests are always welcome. We always love to have guests at our meeting. We have a little luncheon and we have the program, and it's very educational. So if you want to come, just show up and enjoy the meeting. And there's more information on our website. It's bellavistagardenclub.com. It's very easy, and it's easy to maneuver and get information. So, but thank you so much for coming. I really enjoyed
thank you.
hearing
It's been
about the
great.
garden.
This is wonderful.
And hope that we can get more members and get more people to. I don't know if you could fit any more people in the garden, but we'll try.
We'll try. And volunteers and members and all that we'd love to have.
That's wonderful. Oh, so I hope you've enjoyed the show, and will join us again next month. And until then, don't forget to stop and smell the roses.